Israel and Judah ran into a common problem: the Moabites. Now, one of the kings of Moab needed to be suppressed. He needed to be pushed back because he was beginning to invade northern Israel. Stela was the result. The Moabite stone, also known as the Mesha Stela, was famously found in 1868, and after unfortunate vandalism and a lengthy gathering process, it was reconstructed in the Louvre Museum, Paris, where it sits to this day. The Mesha Stela was found in modern-day Jordan, the ancient territory of Moab. It was written as a victory monument of King Mesha of Moab, an adversary of both Israel and Judah. What it documents is directly paralleled in 2 Kings 3. It verifies the battle recorded in Kings, as well as the name of Mesha himself. Lesser known to the general public is what else this monument verifies. King Mesha had the stone written in the first person. He names Omri, king of Israel. He claims Chemosh as the head god of Moab, mentioned by the Bible. After Mesha led Moab in their successful revolt against Israel and Judah, his stela recorded that he went on to take back territory that had been conquered by Israel and Judah. In his conquest of the territory north of Moab, biblically controlled by the tribes of Reuben and Gad, Mesha names 12 towns that are also spoken of in the Old Testament. Mesha's stela even mentions the men of Gad, dwelling in the land of Adaroth from of old. The Bible records that Adaroth was in the tribal allotment of Gad, and that the Gadites rebuilt this city. Amazingly, the Moabite stone also contains an early reference to the proper name of God. When taking the city of Nebo from the Israelites, identified in the Bible as the tribe of Reuben, Mesha claims that he killed 7,000 of its inhabitants and stripped their town of the altar hearths of Yahweh. After campaigning north, Mesha's attention turned south to territory apparently controlled by Judah. In line 31, Mesha lists this territory taken back from the house of David, a phrase known from the Bible and the Tel Dan Stela to mean the kings of Judah. The Bible is pushing us rather quickly through this ancient history of the kings of Israel and Judah. Now remember, Israel and Judah hadn't really been on good terms at all. There had been minor battles and skirmishes between the two countries after it split. Remember, it was only the United Kingdom of Israel under Saul, David, and Solomon. And then Solomon's son, Rehoboam, made some foolish decisions that actually split the tribes of Israel, and it resulted in the creation of two kingdoms. The northern kingdom of Israel, ruled by many different dynasties of kings or family groups of kings, and then the southern kingdom of Judah, with the capital of Jerusalem, that was reigned over by kings descendant from King David and Solomon. Now, there had been many skirmishes and times of relative peace and then times of aggression between northern Israel and southern Judah, but we read here covered in our scripture reading today that King Ahab of northern Israel and King Jehoshaphat of southern Judah made a temporary alliance. And Jehoshaphat even ends up marrying, he sets up a marriage between his son and a daughter of Ahab and Jezebel. Now, this seems like a really bad idea because we have the perspective of time. And it turned out being a very bad deal for Jehoshaphat and the descendants of David. But the reason that that alliance was there was because they were beginning to face these external pressures, like from the Moabites. From the time period covered in our reading today in 2 Kings chapters 9 through 12, from that time period in history comes a biblical artifact that is extremely famous today. We are going to be taking a look at the Tel Dan Stela. In 1993, an accidental discovery would rock the world of biblical archaeology forever. After an archaeological dig at ancient Tel Dan, the team surveyor had been finishing up some last-minute measurements before heading out with the dig's director. Trudging back to the car with her surveying equipment, she stopped for a quick rest. And that's when she saw it, a chunk of rock being used as a brick in a recently excavated wall, with what she recognized as a very ancient inscription carved into it. A quick call to the dig director verified that she had spotted something marvelous, what turned out to be an enemy king's victory stela being reused as building material. During the next dig season, 2 more fragments of the same stela were discovered. Fit together, the fragments reveal only a small portion of what would have been a much longer inscription. Yet, what can be deciphered is more than significant. A section of the translated text is interpreted to read, "And I killed Jehoram, son of Ahab, king of Israel. And I killed Ahaziah, son of Joram, of the house of David." This inscription would have been commissioned by none other than Aram's king, Hazael, who appears in the Bible. Though the Bible clearly displays Jehu as the man who ended the lives of Jehoram and Ahaziah, enemy kings often took credit for acts they did not do. Dated to the year 841 BC, the Teldan stela, contemporary with the reign of fearsome Jehu, not only verifies the biblical account of Jehoram and Ahaziah's lives, fathers, partnership, and murders, it also was the first discovered non-biblical reference to King David. Less than 150 years after the death of David came a source from an enemy kingdom directly linking the kings of Judah to their predecessor, David. From our reading today, we learn about King Jehu of northern Israel. Now, he's a usurper king, technically. He's anointed by God for the task, but he comes in and he destroys, he has executed the family of Ahab and Jezebel, and he seizes the throne. Now, he goes too far, doesn't he? As we continue to read through these chapters, we're all excited because Jehu, he gets rid of the evil that's going on in northern Israel, but then he becomes a problem himself. He goes too far. And we read in 2 Kings chapter 10 that as a result of this, God begins to shrink the territory of northern Israel. Now, some direct ancient evidence that we have of this shrinking is the artifact we just looked at, the Teldan stela, which is a record probably commissioned by Hazael, king of Aram, one of those enemies of northern Israel, of how he moved into northern Israel and successfully won some battles against her. Now, some more artifacts that we read of are actually from the records of ancient Assyria. Jehu is the only king of Israel who is perhaps, scholars think it would either be himself or a direct representative, so one of his highest officials, is actually pictured on an Assyrian stone, kneeling just in his undergarments before the king of Assyria and paying tribute. So we see here the many different ways that God used to accomplish this shrinking of the kingdom of Israel. King Hazael of Aram was an enemy of northern Israel and southern Judah, but he is also a very interesting historical figure. So right now, you and I are going to go back into history and see what we can learn about Hazael. The historical figure of Hazael, usurper king of Aram, who ruled from 842 to 800 BC, appears in the Bible many times. First, as an army commander speaking with Elijah in 1 Kings 19. And then as an enemy king opposing Israel and Judah in 2 Kings 8 to 13 and 2 Chronicles 22. So great was Hazael's attack and success against God's people that 50 years later the prophet Amos would use his name in his prophecies against Aram. Like many influential people in the Bible, evidence for Hazael can also be found outside of the scriptures. Hazael is mentioned in the Assyrian records of King Shalmaneser III, unearthed in 1903, in which Hazael is called a usurper, the son of a nobody, matching the Bible's description. One of the most famous artifacts in biblical archaeology was likely commissioned by Hazael himself. Today, we call it the Tel Dan Stela, after the city, Dan, in which it was found between 1993 and 94. The stela claims victory for Hazael over Israel and the house of David. It names King Joram and Ahaziah as killed by him. In the scriptures, Joram and Ahaziah are actually killed by Jehu, an Israelite commander, in the aftermath of skirmishes with Hazael. But not surprisingly, here on his victory stela, Hazael took full credit. There have also been finds in modern-day Syria that relate to Hazael. Found within the occupied territory of Assyria were ivory carvings believed to have come as booty from Hazael's Damascus palace. 2 of them are decorative carvings with a dedication inscription to Hazael. Another is of a standing figure that researchers believe to be a portrait of Hazael.